In every society, it is the artist's role to create work that says the things politicians, financiers, and industry leaders cannot. By sparking conversation in this way, perspective grows and progress continues. That is why freedom of expression forever remains a cornerstone of every democracy. Portions of the following conversation may concern you.
Quality of construction is a big issue right now. When you go into a $700,000 house and it doesn't have solid wood floor joists, it's got particle board that's been pressed together with a couple 2x2s, and it's about this long, and they're saying that is engineeringly sound. Have you ever got particle board wet?
Really?
Have you ever been near particle board when it burns? There's a reason that they have very specific. You cannot burn this in an open pit. It's actually stamped on some of them.
Yeah.
They tell you there's no burning of particle board. Go to a provincial park and there'll be signs saying no pressure treated wood, no particle board. You can't burn that stuff. Why? Because it's full of arsenic and glue and all these things. And then a fire happens in the GTA, in a $700,000 house, let's say.
Yeah.
And the firemen are going into these to try and save what they can, and they're falling right through the floor.
Yeah.
So how is that adding $700,000 of value that you're going to spend the next 30 years paying for? Where's the value? It's value for value. If you're transferring $700,000 of your potential future earnings into that investment, you better know what it is. Because everyone's sitting there thinking, yeah, but the $700,000 house, I'm not going to be here 30 years. $700,000 house, I'm here 10 years, and then it's 1.2 million, and I'm out.
Yeah.
They all look at it as an investment now.
Yeah.
Well, they are not going to go from 500,000 to 2.5 million in the next 30 years because there's no jobs. So how do you pay for it? It's not going to happen. We're hitting a wall. We're hitting a limitation wall. And everyone's still just going, oh, but it's always been like this, so it'll be like this forever. It's actually Darwin. That whole book can be described in 3 words. It's circumstance forces change. Unless the circumstance reaches the point where we are forced to change, we will all follow a path of least resistance. So people would meet you and they would figure out pretty quickly that there's something different here. And was that the nature, what led to the abuse, do you think?
Yeah, I think it was the nature of it, because as soon as they found out that I was not normal, as a normal kid would, they would take advantage of it, or they would make fun of me or something like that. Going through school and everything else, they were like, kids would make fun of other kids, he's not a smart kid, he's a dummy and all that, and they would make fun of me. And it was hard for me to get through that.
Because bullying is such a big issue now in society.
Definitely.
And it's not new. The councillors want the feds in Toronto to do something about the Asian carp. Apparently, we have an Asian carp situation that is migrating its way from America to the Great Lakes. And the issue that we're going to present to the writer of this story is something that they could actually add that they might have missed, or maybe they're still looking into. I'm assuming that when they present a story like this, there's going to be some kind of a follow-up. What we would offer the writer of this story is a true or false question. Has the federal government, in fact, actually already implemented a plan in regards to this issue? And does it involve special training from ministry officials with law enforcement in the GTA area to isolate and locate storm retention ponds which have been blocked off by typically newcomers to the country who don't understand all the rules or the importance of the infrastructure, so that they could actually be turned into fish farms, at which point when a big storm comes, the storm retention pond overflows because it's been blocked off, and the fish make their way to the lake and are they not already trying to deal with this in a way completely different than what has been presented in this story? We do not debate at all. We have never seen a dumping like that on the GTA in that short of a period of time, but how did that affect the sizable bill that Toronto is going to have to fix the problem? That's how we're beginning this episode. Joe, I'd like to thank you for coming today.
Well, thank you very much for asking me out and doing this interview.
You actually have overcome some tremendous adversities in your life, and you are now on a mission to share your message through a public speaking tour, which you do when requested. And what exactly is your condition?
Well, my condition is that I have fetal alcohol syndrome, FAS, and it's due to the fact that my mother was an alcoholic at the time on the reserve, and it was very rampant back then. Back in the 50s and early 60s, they were bringing in booze on the reserves and stuff, and it was getting out of control. A lot of people don't understand what FAS is because it just started to be recognized in 1973 or 74 when the doctors started to put two and two together, alcohol and drugs and whatever, and they're starting to put the match together, and they start to do blood tests on them and start realizing that, oh, they have a problem with their learning disability. They have a short concentration ability to concentrate on one thing at one time. Going to school a lot, they almost have to be like tutored one-on-one. But being in a white society, a lot of them didn't understand what the culture was or anything like that, and they just shoved them in there not knowing what kind of problem it was going to cause for the child, and they didn't understand the child, how he was going to learn through the school system, and it was hard. It was very hard to do.
So people would meet you and they would figure out pretty quickly that there's something different here. And was that the nature, what led to the abuse, do you think?
Yeah, I think it was the nature of it, because as soon as they found out that I was not normal, as a normal kid would, they would take advantage of it, or they would make fun of me or something like that. Going through school and everything else, they were like, kids would make fun of other kids, he's not a smart kid, he's a dummy and all that, and they would make fun of me. And it was hard for me to get through that.
Because bullying is such a big issue now in society.
Definitely.
And it's not new. It was you finding your place in the herd.
Right.
Right? There's the alpha who will beat his chest, and if you don't want to try and beat your chest harder, then you submit to the alpha.
That's right.
It's just nature 101. Labeling it as bullying is just how people find their place in a lot of cases. The extreme nature of it now, because of social networking and all these other things, they're not really explaining to the children why it's happening. They're just basically saying it's wrong. But it's just part of how society, you find your place within it.
Well, that's the whole point. Is a lot of people, what they do is they bring these kids into this world, and then they just almost like, okay, here you go, and put them in a society where the kids are like, don't know what to do, and they're misguided in different areas. Oh, go here and do this and do that, and you can be this, and the kid goes along with it, not knowing it might harm themselves, or they're putting themselves in danger or anything
like Jackass.
Yeah.
Like you watch something like Jackass on TV, right?
Right.
And you go, and then all of a sudden you're watching YouTube, and there's guys doing backflips off of their roof, doing backyard wrestling.
If I did that in my time, they would lock me up.
Exactly.
Definitely lock me up. Oh, this guy's way out of control here. We can't control him. He's crazy. Let's get out of here. Let's get him locked up and put away.
It's actually easier for you to see this because of your condition, because you've had to come through the whole growth process of trying to figure out why you were different, because they didn't diagnose it. Right.
And that's the biggest problem. When they don't diagnose something about a person or a problem, they just let it go.
Yeah.
They just let it go. They don't care what happens. They just like, okay, it's not our problem. We'll let them go.
Well, it's an anomaly.
Yeah.
It's an anomaly. And then all of a sudden there's 300,000 anomalies that are exactly the same. Now we got to do something about it, right?
Right.
It's specifically with fetal alcohol. You just reach this point because in the 50s, like the time you're talking about, everyone smoked.
Oh, yeah.
You went home, you had your drink, and you know, it was a cultural, that's just
a natural thing.
And then years later they realize, wow, maybe that wasn't such a good idea.
Right. And now they're trying to correct the problem by getting people like myself to come out and speak up and speak out.
How long have you been public speaking now to try and raise awareness about fetal alcohol syndrome?
I've been doing this now since 2002. I started in Sudbury, Ontario at a Anishinaabe health center. And there was a bunch of ladies there, and they happened to come across me, and I happened to tell them who I was and what I was doing and everything else. And they said, well, we would like you to come and speak over here and to these ladies about fetal alcohol syndrome and everything else. And ever since then, it's been a ball roll.
Every generation blames the one before, or they just expect the next one through technology will fix it. And what we're trying to, one of the messages we're trying to get across, the words must become action. And the person who's to blame is the person who is right here and now in this present moment and not acting.
That's it.
If you are not acting, you are responsible.
That's the whole point. I mean, people who don't act on stuff are the ones that are going to be doing the harm, more harm than good.
Some people say it's a conspiracy and they're dumbing us down, and really it's just a path of least resistance. You reach a point where there's so many kids with so many special needs that the basic model that we're using, it's just not actually working. And then they just finally reached a frustration level where they abandoned it all and just said, this is a daycare center, move them through.
Yeah, and that's the wrong thing to do. That's a very wrong thing to do, because a lot of them just don't understand it. They don't want to understand it. They don't want to hear the truth about what's going on. And people got to stop and realize, you can't put a square peg in a round hole. We all fit in different ways. Some of them are very intelligent, some of them are not intelligent, some of them are laborers, some of them are talkers, some of them are action doers. But yet, you look at the whole picture of society, and somewhere in that puzzle, you're a piece of it. Either you're with the program or you're without the program.
And if you're without the program, then you'll die under a bridge in a cardboard box.
That's it.
Your identity is formed around your need to achieve beyond your limitations, whereas everyone else's identity is formed around being given everything. And now, wham! The educational system has not prepared these people for the reality of the workplace at all.
No.
That first minimum wage job that you have, where the boss basically says, do it again, do it again,
Yep.
do it again. Well, they just go home and say, I'm moving back into my parents' basement.
Yeah.
But that's what, there's a bridge there that it's a hell of a one to learn at 20.
Yeah, it is. It is. And a lot of people don't want to learn at 20.
Well, they're already programmed.
They're already pre-programmed. They've been, it's almost like if I told you how to tie up your shoe for the first time, and I showed you how to do it, and then you tried it, and you failed, well, do it again. And I keep on you until you learn how to do it the right way, until you know how to do it yourself. I've shown you how to do it, now it's up to you to do it.
It's crazy the corner that we've painted ourselves in. I have a book called The Feel-Good Curriculum, the dumbing down of North America's youth in the name of self-esteem.
Oh, okay.
And that's basically what they've done. We can't let anybody feel bad because then we're bullying them, because bullying, just everything gets thrown under that label.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
you know what? Maybe the kid just needed more help.
Right.
Maybe the kid needed more time. Maybe he needed more time at the grade 2 level instead of the grade 12 level
That's it.
where they're letting them stay back for an extra year if they're just not ready to move on yet.
Right.
Well, talk about a nightmare. Right now they're allowing in 300,000 temporary workers into this country because no one's willing to go pick apples. Right?
Really?
They're all in their parents' basement playing PlayStation 3,
Right.
but they ask them to pick an apple, they'll freaking, Jesus. We have a spoiled generation beyond anything that my brain can even comprehend. And then now all of a sudden we have to find a way to make them useful because all they're interested in is their devices. And part of the problem is that we've removed failure from the educational equation. They don't fail anybody anymore, right? Right now, if you can't make it through, then you will just be pushed through. And at the end, if you can't find your way, then I guess it's the workplace's job to give you your first lesson on failure.
Right.
What a hell of a time to learn about failure when you're at your first job.
Really, it is.
Right.
And for me, living with my disease and going to a first job like that, it would be like, oh no. I would have to warn them ahead of time to let them know that I have a problem. But today's society, they're afraid to speak up and speak out.
Yeah.
And say they have a problem of learning.
Yeah. Well, they've never had to learn.
They've never had to learn because everything's been handed to them.
You go to college, they give you a credit card, right? And you're immediately on that treadmill. Student loans are not bankruptable anymore in this country.
Oh, no.
So you get on that treadmill and you just keep feeding the credit machine until you finally crash and you learn for the first time when they take everything away.
Yeah.
Right? That's a hell of a way to learn.
It is, but sometimes it has to come down to it.
Sooner or later, you get painted into this corner where you can't juggle it anymore.
That's right.
And frankly, in the current economy, no one can afford a $600,000 mortgage.
No.
I don't care what job you have. Unless you're one of the 1% of the 1%, the mortgages that young people are taking, is there any field that you can think of that you can honestly say is going to be sustainable for the next 25 years to pay that off when you know how quickly technology is changing? Even if you work in the technology sector, which is the highest paid, it's changing so fast that do you honestly think you, as a person who has the responsibilities of family and all of the other aspects of life that start taking over, that you're going to, even if you're on the cutting edge today, do you honestly think you're going to be on the cutting edge 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, when there's a new young guy who has all the time to focus on just that, and you have to focus on the responsibilities of life. It's a focus issue, and that's why eventually you get left behind.
That's it.
James Burke said it perfectly in, I believe it was the Connections. He did a series called Connections for the BBC. It might have been the day the universe changed. And he said, the problem with the whole society is that we've all been taught, you go to school to learn a specialized task, and by the time that you master that task, it is obsolete.
Very, very true about that, because you stop and think about it. In today's society, you buy a car today, you drive it off that lot, it's no longer
half the value right there. Boom.
People don't understand the value of money at all. They've lost the value of money. They've lost the value of everything. They don't even know the value of their own life.
Or time.
Or time that's been put into it. They don't even know. For me to do what I'm doing today, I have to put my energy into it, but I'm doing it because I want to do it. Because I know I can help other people understand what I have gone through, so they don't have to make the mistakes themselves.
People don't understand what money actually is. Money is an energy transfer agreement. You agree to use your physical energy to transform it into a piece of paper that we all agree has value, and we trade value for value. I take my physical energy and store it in a form that I can give you because you know how to grow potatoes and I know how to shoot a video.
Right.
And together we can use this medium of exchange to make agreements, right? But it's really an energy transfer agreement. Before money becomes a medium of exchange. It's an energy transfer agreement. You're investing your energy into it. It's easy to just throw slings and arrows like we're doing right now because it's a colossal undertaking. We have to restructure our entire educational system. Where do you even start? We are so far down this path that clearly is the wrong one, that how do you correct it now without a major upheaval? And I don't have the answer to that.
Well, you don't have the answer, but you do have the answer. The answer is this: stop it. Put a block in it and say, that's enough. And let everybody smash into that wall until they realize that, oh, we're messing ourselves up. We are the keepers of the land by rights. We are to look after Mother Nature of what he has created for us, the beauty behind us. Look around yourself. I mean, and look at what we're doing to our world is we're destroying it by looking for gold and oil and gas, and we're building high rises and we're killing the forests like left and right. And for what?
As someone of European ancestry, I'm first generation born here. It is staggering once you learn a little bit more about your culture. The sheer raping of this, they just viewed it as a resource.
Oh yeah.
It's the promised land. It's the land of milk and honey. It's the resource wellspring that can never be run dry, and we're hitting some pretty serious limits.
Well, we are in a lot of areas. I mean, you say the river won't run dry, but yet you're polluting your waters by putting garbage in it. And then you get sick. And you're wondering, well, there got to be a cure. Well, there is a cure. Stop polluting your water and start doing something about it. People talk about it, but yet they don't want to put the words into action. And that's where they have a problem. They're aiming into disaster. If there's a sign saying there's a cliff ahead, and you don't listen to that sign, what's going to happen? Is you're going to end up going right through that sign and into the cliff where you're no more.
And we're so fortunate to be here in Canada.
Oh,
we really are. We are so blessed.
We are more blessed than anything. But society today has gotten out of control that they don't even see how beautiful it is.
We chose this spot specifically because how many places on the world are there left like this where, you know, there's been maybe, 6 people that have come wandering through here? Where are they all? We live in a country where we spend 6 months of the year inside because of winter. This is one of the most glorious days we'll probably have of the year. Where is everybody?
Yeah, they should be out here roaming around and investigating and checking out different things.
Just breathing the fresh air. Oh, there's a big osprey up there.
Oh, yeah.
Look at that thing. Oh, there's 2 of them.
Oh, there's 2 of them there.
Right? But yeah, look at this. Like you say, people can't see the beauty anymore because
the technology has gotten control over them.
They're only focusing here.
Media programmed them to do other things than take a walk in their own backyard.
Incredible.
And here we are today. I'm sitting out here in a beautiful area where there's trees, flowers, birds, and nature. Back to nature.
Yeah. And I'm glad to be here with you, Joe.
Well, it's a real honor to be here also because it's time for us to stop talking about it and start putting it into action. And if we need to do that, it takes one person.
Joe is one of the most unique public speakers we have in this country. We're going to have all of his contact information on the website. We hope others will book him. We're doing this to try and generate awareness for him. He has a very special message. It is a triumph over adversity tale like no one's ever heard before. And for all the people who don't believe fetal alcohol syndrome still even exists, you really need to come and speak with this man and hear him talk. He's very generous with his time. He needs minimal compensation to help him with his message. He really just is doing this from a special place because it is his struggle that he has had to live with, and we hope that you'll support him. because he has a tremendous message. With a generation now who seems so entitled to everything, and having never experienced failure through the educational system, which is the ultimate failure of the educational system, you need to understand how failure molds you. Joe has had to rise above through failure after failure that his condition forced upon him. Circumstance forced him to change. If you know someone who's in a similar situation, please just feel free to contact him. He wants to meet you.
That's right. I want to meet people that want to help themselves out of a situation that they are in. I'm willing to sacrifice myself for them, to show them that there is a better way out of life. There is hope. Don't give up. Because if you give up, then you might as well not live anymore.
Well, and if you can be optimistic after everything you've been through, then all the little whiners need to actually have a sit down and a little breath of reality, because they've got nothing to complain about.
No, they don't. Because what I've went through, I've survived a lot. I've been through a lot, and living with this disease, it's a permanent disease that there's no doctor that can fix it. There's no medicine that can fix it. There's no pills that they can give me and say, oh, well, here, take this pill and it'll cure you and everything else. And I'm going, no, I don't have no pills for that. It's permanent damage. It's brain damage. And if you think you got a brain, use it in the right way. Don't use it stupid. Don't let other people convince you in doing something stupid for yourself, because you ain't gonna make yourself look good. They're just using you to get ahead for themselves. And that's where it comes down to it.
On that note, we're going to end. I'd like to thank you, Joe, for coming.
Well, thank you for inviting me out here, and it's a real pleasure meeting with you again after 2 years, and I hope to do it again.
We're going to try and trigger a little reaction here in the mainstream media by taking the CARP issue and putting our little spin on it. We're going to feed it back into the system, and we're going to see if we start hearing any stories in the near future about storm retention ponds being turned into fish farms, and what the potential cost is, and did it affect the Toronto flooding, and is there true or false? Are there officers that have been trained by members of the Ministry of Natural Resources to identify these situations and reverse them? And when a flood happens, do the fish escape into the system, which is the whole point of what they're trying to stop? That's our true or false question back to the Toronto Sun. We're going to send it to the reporter of this story, and hopefully we'll be getting an interesting response. So I'm going to get a shot of that, and we're done. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.